Imagine this. A routine traffic stop takes a shocking turn when a police officer unjustly arrests a black woman without any real cause. The tension builds as the officer's words and actions reveal his bias, sparking outrage from witnesses. Little does he know, the woman he's targeting isn't just anyone. She's the mother of NBA legend Shaquille O'Neal. In a world where people are often judged by appearances, this story highlights what happens when prejudice collides with the power of influence in family. The cop, confident in his authority, has no idea of the storm he's about to unleash. As the woman calmly explains herself, the officer refuses to listen, escalating the situation. But here's where it gets interesting. Word of the incident begins to spread, and the identity of the woman comes to light. The question is, will this officer's assumptions cost him more than his badge? And how will the community, and even Shaq himself, respond? Stick around as we dive into this eye-opening story of justice, bias, and the unexpected connections that turn the tables in the most surprising way. You won't believe what happens next as the officer leads the woman to his squad car. Her calm demeanor stands in stark contrast to his aggression. The bystanders, some filming with their phones, murmur in disbelief. They can't understand why a simple stop escalated to this. The woman repeatedly tries to explain, but her words seem to fall on deaf ears. The officer, consumed by his own prejudice, seems determined to show authority, refusing to acknowledge her request for fairness. For the woman, this moment is more than just a random encounter with the law. She's a mother, someone who raised a son who became a global icon. She's been through challenges before, but this is different. The injustice of the situation gnaws at her, and she begins to wonder how many others have faced the same humiliation, unheard and unseen. The crowd grows larger as word spreads, and soon the tension in the air is palpable. Some are wondering why the officer is still holding the woman despite no legitimate reason. The moment feels as though it could explode at any second. In the midst of it all, the woman's phone buzzes with an incoming message. It's from someone very close to her, someone who could change everything in an instant. What happens next? That's the mystery. The woman's hands tremble slightly as she looks at the phone screen. Her pulse quickens, the weight of the situation heavy on her shoulders. The message is from her son, Shaq. She's always kept a low profile, avoiding the spotlight that comes with being his mother. But now everything feels different. Her son, the one who faced his own battles on and off the court, is miles away. But she knows the impact his name can have in a moment like this. She taps out a quick reply, but her thoughts race faster than her fingers can type. The officer is growing more agitated, continuing to ignore her repeated requests to let her go. The bystanders start shouting, some urging the officer to back off, others demanding answers. But it only fuels his stubbornness. The whole scene feels like a powder keg about to blow. Meanwhile, in the crowd, one young man, a college student, records the entire interaction. He's seen the patterns of racial profiling before. He knows how these stories often end. His video could be the key to exposing the officer's blatant disregard for justice. But he's also scared. What if the officer notices him filming? What if this moment leads to even worse consequences? Back at the station, the officer's superior gets a call, one that changes everything. The woman's identity is now public, and the tension rises as they scramble to manage the fallout. But the officer, still oblivious to the storm he's set in motion, believes he's done nothing wrong. The clock is ticking, and everyone is waiting for the inevitable clash between truth and power. The officer's grip tightens as he reads through the woman's information, still ignoring her pleading eyes. His focus is entirely on his actions, convinced that he's in control. But the crowd's murmurs grow louder, the tension undeniable. phones continue to capture the injustice unfolding, the hum of the cameras intensifying. The woman knows she has to keep her composure, but the humiliation is searing. She's tried to stay quiet, trying to let the situation de-escalate, but each passing second feels like an eternity. The young man recording the incident stands a little farther back, the camera shaking slightly as his anxiety builds. He can feel the weight of what he's witnessing. He's seen these moments before, publicized cases of brutality, but never so close to home. He wonders, as he zooms in on the officer's face, whether this could be the one to finally bring about change. But he's also aware that this moment could vanish as quickly as it appeared if no one steps in. Back at the station, the phone rings again. This time, it's the chief of police. Word of the woman's identity has spread like wildfire, and now there's no turning back. The officers inside the station start to realize the scale of their mistake, but it's too late. They've already crossed the line. They can only watch from behind the scenes, knowing that the truth is about to come crashing down on them. And then the woman's phone buzzes once more. She glances at the screen, and her eyes widen in shock. The message is brief, but it's enough to change everything. The crowd falls silent, waiting for her next move. Every moment feels like it could ignite the spark that sets the entire situation aflame. The officer's face twitches as he senses something is off, but he doesn't know what it is. Neither does anyone else. The only thing certain now is that something big is coming, and no one is prepared for the chaos that will follow. The woman's hand shakes as she unlocks her phone, her heart racing. The message isn't from Shaq. It's from a local journalist, someone who has been investigating corruption within the police department. The subject line reads, "They're coming for you." Her mind spins. How did they know? How did they get to her? She knows the risks of speaking out, but this was never supposed to be her fight. Suddenly, the crowd grows restless. Someone in the back of the group starts shouting, drawing attention to a new development. A black SUV pulls into the parking lot, its tinted windows hiding whoever's inside. The whispers in the crowd turn to gasps as the door opens. A man in a sharp suit steps out, his presence instantly commanding. People exchange uneasy looks, some murmuring his name, the mayor. His sudden arrival seems far from coincidental. The officer still doesn't understand the gravity of the situation. He stands firm, trying to maintain control, but as the mayor strides towards him, the air shifts. The woman notices him too. She knows that face. She's seen him in headlines, in public forums, pushing his agenda for community safety. But there's something about his calm demeanor that sends a chill down her spine. The mayor doesn't just stand for law enforcement, he represents something bigger. As he approaches the officer, they exchange a few quiet words. From where she stands, the woman can't hear the conversation, but she can see the way the officer's posture changes. The mayor's words have power, and he's wielding it with precision. It's clear that this encounter was no accident. The stakes have just been raised. The story now reaches beyond one officer's abuse of power. It's a much larger battle, one that involves corruption, political agendas, and a community caught in the crossfire. The woman's breath catches in her throat. What happens next could change everything for her, for the officer, and for everyone watching. The tension in the air is suffocating as the mayor stands face to face with the officer. The woman watches intently, her heart pounding. She can feel the weight of every second, knowing that the next move will determine everything. The officer's posture relaxes under the mayor's gaze, his confidence faltering. There's no mistaking it. He's backing down, but why? The mayor turns to the crowd, his voice calm yet commanding. "Everyone, please," he says, his words slicing through the murmurs. "I understand the frustration, but this matter will be addressed swiftly." There's no need for escalation. He pauses, his gaze briefly meeting the woman's. Then turning back to the officer, he gives a subtle nod. The officer's expression shifts, and he takes a step back. The woman's breath catches as she finally understands. The mayor wasn't here to save her, but to protect his own interests. He had orchestrated this whole scenario, ensuring that the officer would provoke her so that he could swoop in and make a public show of controlling the situation. It's a power play, a carefully constructed move to cover up deeper issues within the police force. She wasn't just an innocent bystander. She was a pawn in a much larger game. Just as the officer begins to walk away, releasing her from custody, the crowd falls silent. The young man who had been recording steps forward, his camera still rolling. He wasn't just documenting the arrest. He'd uncovered something much darker. His footage catches a crucial moment, the brief exchange between the mayor and the officer that seals the deal. The officer hands the mayor a small envelope, which he slips into his coat pocket, his eyes scanning the crowd to ensure no one notices. The woman stares in disbelief, her mind reeling. The story has shifted again. It's not just about an officer's racism or a corrupt system. It's about a powerful network operating behind the scenes, pulling strings and manipulating events to maintain control. Suddenly, the phone buzzes again. This time, it's a call. Shaq's name flashes across the screen. She answers, her voice steady but heavy with the weight of everything that's just unfolded. "Mom, are you okay?" he asks, concern flooding his voice. She takes a deep breath, trying to process it all. "I'm fine," she replies, but there's something more. Something she knows now. This isn't the end. In fact, it might be just the beginning. The call with Shaq ends, but the weight of the situation lingers. The woman watches as the mayor steps back into his SUV, the officer retreating to his car with a look of frustration and confusion. The crowd begins to disperse, but the young man with the camera stays, his recording already going viral. His footage shows more than just the arrest. It captures the corruption, the quiet exchange that proves this was never about law or justice. It was about power. Within hours, the story spreads across social media and news outlets. Public outrage mounts as people begin to piece together the deeper network of corruption. The woman, once just another face in the crowd, becomes the catalyst for a much larger conversation about abuse of power, racial profiling, and political manipulation. As the days pass, investigations are launched, and the mayor's ties to the corrupt practices within the department are exposed. The officer, now facing public backlash and an internal review, is placed on leave. But the woman knows the fight is far from over. The video that changed everything might have started with her, but it's not just her story. It's everyone's story. She looks out the window, the weight of it all settling in. Her son's success had always been about overcoming obstacles, but now she realizes it's her turn to face them too. This battle may have been won, but the fight for justice, equality, and transparency is ongoing. And she's ready.